Yeah, I think that what's so addictive about acting is that you never feel you get it completely 100% as right. Even when you make a choice that turns out to be an effective choice, I feel sometimes like I just didn't commit enough to it, or I was not courageous enough with it, or had I realized that, you know, they weren't going to do coverage, I would have done something different to try to get the point across. And so then you learn to ask how they're going to cover it, so you have every opportunity to, not to be on camera, but just to make a point. You know, there's no point in acting up a storm if it's not going to be seen. That's the difference between theater and film. So when I see it, I mean, sometimes I'll think, oh, really? It had to be like the camera had to be shooting me from my knees the whole, what was that about, you know? Really, was that necessary that everyone's being chopped down here? But most of the time it's just, was my storytelling clear? And you spend a lot of, I usually don't see a film more than once. I mean, when we saw the screening was the first time I'd seen the finished film. But things are cut, you know, all the time. And when you have a small part and you're trying to tell a story, sometimes you're watching and go, whoa, wait a minute, wasn't there a scene that came in somewhere there? What? And so then you're distracted for like 3 scenes while you're trying to figure out, did I say that line? Was that what? You know, because it's a year later. And you're like, whatever happened to that whole bit we did with the whatever? And so big chunks will be gone. And that's very distracting and sometimes incredibly painful. Like there's some of the films I've done as a favor, you know, in the past, and then you see them and it's like, really? Why did they call me in? They've cut it down to absolutely nothing, you know, so it's very frustrating. So now, I remember when I did Wall Street, I'd had a couple bad experiences prior to that, recently to that, and I said to Oliver, look, I don't mind coming in and doing these, you know, I'd love to work with you, it's a fun movie, but seriously, don't put me through this if you're going to cut it down to like 1 scene, 3, you know. And he said something so smart. He said, I would look like a fool if I didn't use you properly. Interesting answer. You know, and he did pretty much leave everything in. But so sometimes when you're watching, it's just shocking that you know, and how you thought you were just an emotional wreck, but either the camera didn't pick it up or it just didn't read, and that's what's so seductive about it, because you're just constantly learning.